All right, cool. So looks like we're live. All right, so this camera, if you want to look in and talk to that one, cool. So hey everybody, welcome back to the True Leon Army podcast. I have Alan Lattimore on, and today we're going to be talking about, is Disney right or wrong? So just to give you guys a recap of what's going on, Disney basically is in a lot of hot water with a lot of conservative thinking people, basically because they are, I think it was like the head who said that they want to have like 50%,
Yeah.
50% represent like racial, pansexual, transgender, and they want to put that in their products now. So Alan made a post like, man, I don't even want my kids to watch the Disney content anymore. And I was just like, man, it's very interesting. So I wanted to bring him on. I'm going to go ahead and start with him, man. So what made you say that?
So pretty much, man. I'm careful what my kids watch in general.
Mhm.
I really restrict their viewing to like YouTube Kids only.
Mhm.
And then you can govern that by age and certain range.
Mhm.
Just because there's so much out there now to where they can be easily influenced by something that I'm not teaching at home. And,
Right.
I don't want that happening. And then I feel like Disney's overstepping their boundary now, because at what point is it okay for you to inflict your mindset or your agenda on kids? Like
Mhm.
the most innocent forms of beings, like
Mhm.
they're easily influenced. They don't know which way to go yet.
Right.
We tell them everything they're supposed to do at this point, and
Mhm.
it really just struck a chord with me. Like, man, I can't. This is not something I can back. I'm a fan of Disney forever.
Mhm.
I've been to Disney World, Disneyland.
Oh,
Several
and,
times.
I mean, and
Several
and
times.
honestly, I haven't. So, um, but there's a reason they're doing it, and I was researching that before you came. So,
Mhm.
the chief chairman, which is Robert Iger, he was like from '05 to 2020.
Okay.
So he made a point that said that he wanted to be more inclusive, because if and it was quite a few good things he did do. For example, in 2009 we got the first black princess, the Princess and the Frog. Great, fantastic.
2009.
2009, right? It took a long
Oh,
time.
wow, long time.
And then we had the Black Panther, and he was a very vocal, and it was very African centric
True.
in that, and so it was very inclusive of African American people. I feel like where the line needs to be drawn is when it comes to sexuality,
Mhm.
because even if it's a heterosexual thing, you definitely don't want, how can I say, you don't want it to be where they, like you said, they're pushing something onto your kids.
Yeah.
To where even if it's heterosexual, like there's still like a boundary that needs to be.
Yeah, that needs to be discussed at this
Exactly.
age. Like, let's get them, at least let's get them to teenage years.
Exactly. Hell, it's just once they feel like they have to do that, because I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to be inclusive because there are parents who are open to that with their children.
Right.
That's fine, but I think that's such a minority, and Disney is trying to be right with so many people that they're not realizing that they're going to alienate a huge base, because you can't make everybody happy.
You can't.
And I get that. Like you want to make money, you want to be inclusive. That's fine. But once I feel like I'm putting on something on the TV and I feel like, damn, I got to turn it off. Like, what the hell is this that my kids are seeing, or what are they trying to push towards my children? I just want them to go, like, I wanted to look at it as like going to the park. You go play, go down the slide, have fun, good time. That's it. I don't want to go there and talk politics and get agendas pushed my way.
Right.
And it's just, I don't know, man. What do you
No,
think?
I'm on the same
Okay.
same tune as you. It just, when you're kids, man, you're supposed to experience things that kids do.
Mhm.
Let's leave it, in the kid space. We say that all the time. My mom used to tell me that all the time.
Mhm.
Stay out of grown folks' conversation because you're not grown, and kids are not grown, and they shouldn't be subjected to things that adults go through. Like you said, they're not ready for that conversation or that piece of information that we want to project on them at that age. Just let them be kids, man. They don't even know how to hate at that age. That's
they
taught.
really don't. Yeah.
Everything is taught at that age,
Mhm.
and it's just a simple fact that, like you said, they're alienating a vast majority of people. For their listeners or their watchers,
Mhm.
just to please a few, and I don't think it's worth it at the end, in my opinion. They may care less. They're billion-dollar company, so they could more or less care.
Very, very rich company. But I mean, to an extent, they have to care because at the end of the day, with them being a large company, they still depend on revenue.
Absolutely.
So if people start, how can I say, paying or talking to them with their wallets, like you may not hear this podcast.
Yes, that's true. That's always true.
Yeah,
the dollar always moves.
Yeah, the dollar moves it.
Yeah.
So if the majority of people are saying, hey, we're not being vindictive towards people who may choose that lifestyle, that's fine. And again, that's not what this podcast is trying to do or dissuade. Like, I don't care. But within our household, when you're putting sexuality within the actual like damn cartoons, and feel like, you remember the movie Philadelphia back in the day?
I do. And it sticks with me.
Yeah.
And I watched that 20 years ago.
Yeah. And I remember I was telling my wife, I was like, I feel like that when they're making movies and making content, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to just make a great story. And it doesn't matter who, if it's, how could I say, if it's gay or this or that, it's a great story. It's not like they're trying to, like, we got to have so many black people, we got to have this transgender, because at that point it feels shoehorned. It feel like you're forcing this in there to make something that is not. That's like where we take old cartoons that we watched back when we were kids, and then you take the characters and you change them. It's just like, okay,
it loses small.
You're like, it looks like an agenda. And the people are not giving an issue with like using a homosexual character or a transgender character. It's how you do it and why you're doing it.
Right.
Because you're trying to, like, trust me, we're already having these conversations with our kids. To the sense, what I have is that, I teach them based off science. Like, you are a biological male, you are a biological female. But if someone chooses to take that lifestyle, that's them. I mean, I have friends who've taken that lifestyle. Perfectly cool. But I just feel like that when it comes to children, it's just that line.
Yeah.
It's that line. So when kids are like, now you got like 6, 7-year-olds who are talking about it, it's like, okay, now we have a problem.
Yes, that's a serious problem.
You know what I mean? We have a problem because they don't even understand a lot of things about themselves. And now they feel like they're learning this from Disney.
Right. Not at home. They're
not
learning
at home.
From Disney.
Right.
Right.
So when they finally bring it to their parents, the parents are getting caught off guard. So now our parents like, you know what? I'm about to show you where it hurts. My Disney Plus account, all right, I'm gonna start canceling that. These Disney movies that come out, I'm not gonna go watch it because I know at some point in the movie you're gonna push something
that I don't want my kids to
I don't want my kids to see, because y'all could put the little ratings on over there, but that shit does not align with, I mean, I know sometimes there'll be adult jokes that kind of go over kids' heads, and it'll be funny because it's for the adults too.
Yeah.
But that shit it's like the sexuality is a whole new level.
It's a whole nother ball game. It's a whole nother ball game. But like you said, when we start hitting them, we start canceling those subscriptions. Stop seeing a lot less Disney around. I mean,
people have been protesting like crazy.
They should, and rightfully so. I mean, I've seen a lot on my social media. I've seen a lot of people outraged about it. It's just funny though, because when you talk about kids, kids at that age can't even pick their own bedtimes, but yet they can pick their sexuality. That's
crazy.
That's nuts.
And I'm glad you pointed it out. It's like some people may take offense that people are upset about pushing sexuality. And like you said, so we monitor things kids do. Like, you won't let them cook at a certain age. They can't pick their bedtime. When in school, the teacher, they have to, listen to their teachers, to their instructors, to their elders, because there's so many things in which they don't know. They've been alive for so long, they're processing information. So you mean to tell me all these other things we have to maintain as adults? And if we don't, we get in trouble.
We do.
But now we're getting, basically shafted or looked at wrong because we're questioning what you're pushing in the content. And it's just sad. I'll be honest, it's even sad this has to be a conversation.
It is.
It's like, this shouldn't even be the case. I mean, you're a father of 7 children. I have 7 children. And, you have a wide array. I have some that are grown. It's all the way down to a little my young. Yeah. So, and when I think about that, I'm like, damn, I can only imagine what it's going to be when my youngest get older. Like, you know, because to me, it don't seem like it's changing.
Yeah. Oh, it's not. It's only going to get worse. And, you know, I see it now to where, I mean, when I look at TV, I look at TV now and I always see something like, man, this was nowhere close to what they would put on TV when we were younger. Like, it's crazy. Like, you didn't see homosexual people on TV. Very rarely did you see it. I won't say you never, but you very rarely see it.
Well, you even rarely seen when they did heterosexual things. They still had a layer of respect for allowing those conversations to be had at home.
You're right.
You know, and I think with the hypersexuality, you know, how can I say this? It's like the more they pushed it, now we get more teen pregnancies. You know, more things we getting kids worried about things that back in the 70s,
they
60s,
had no care of. Yeah.
Correct. And not that it didn't happen, but it wasn't to the extent that it is now, because we normalize it in our music and the things we watch. Like you said, back in the day, TVs didn't reflect all that.
No. And, you know, social media is the biggest, it could be, you know, the biggest hindrance. Also, it could be a biggest ally at times. But when things like this come out, I mean, they're vulnerable to seeing it. They're vulnerable to capturing it. And so now we're forced to have conversations with our children earlier than what we anticipated. Like, why should I be having this conversation with my 4-year-old?
Right.
He should be worrying about playing with bubbles or, you know, kickball or some of that nature. But now I'm talking about sexuality. Like, it's
and we're demonized for it.
Yeah,
we're demonized if we're not as inclusive.
We're wrong because we don't recognize what you know.
Yeah, and again, I'm a firm believer in agreeing to disagree. That's fine if that's how you want to do.
You don't have to agree.
Yeah, like that's fine. Like it's no sweat off my back.
Right.
But again, I just love how you pointed out back in the day, man, like TV, they had a lot more respect for what they put on. Even the music.
They did.
You know, they used to blurt out certain words. They used to
BT and Cut didn't come on till after midnight.
Yeah, it was like 3 a.m. It was a whole different story.
Midnight.
Yeah, but you know, now it's like it's a totally different game. So if we look at the effects that once they started introducing just again the heterosexual aspect and how it just hyper realized that, you know, people just became more loose and not respecting the sanctity of sex and how should I say this, how many emotions come to play, you know, people have kids young. I mean, it's so many things, because like young women look at this and get like, oh, okay, this is how I'm supposed to act. This is what I'm supposed to do. Young men, like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to treat women, you know? And again, I don't personally, and we may disagree, but I don't think people choose to be gay. You know, that's your lifestyle. And I feel like that if you're constantly pushing sexuality as though like damn near it's like pornos almost, you know, on just regular TV, and then with our kids' TV, like I said, we look at the movies they watch, we feel like, oh, I had to change my voice because now, you know, I'm doing this, and it's just like your kids sitting there like, well, that was a girl last week. You know, what's going on? And now we're having these conversations, and it's just like, I don't know. And again, I don't have the statistics. I don't know how many kids are struggling with this, but I don't believe that it's the minority speaks for the majority. You know what I mean?
Right,
like,
I do.
I'm sure there's a minority of people who may grow up and feel this way. And I believe they should have their outlets. I believe that if you want to create a new character and feel like you want to be inclusive, do it in a creative way, but don't shoehorn it.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you have to do it just to be like, well, I have to get it in there because transgender people are going to be mad. It's just like,
what were they doing before then?
Exactly.
I mean, were they not happy with the cartoons prior to?
Exactly. And you know, and I think about the movie Philadelphia. I mean, it could have been anybody else. It could have been a transgender. It could have been homosexual. Well, excuse me, it wasn't homosexual. It could have been a heterosexual. It could have been anything. But the story was good.
It was a great story.
It was a great story. It was touching. I felt it. I mean, hell, time to time, I'll watch it just because of the acting.
Yeah.
It was a great story. So when you put the time into the story, those other factors will come into place as long as it aligns with the story.
Right.
But if it does not align and you're just shoehorning it, And now you're forcing our children to sit here.
All I see is agenda there. I don't even. This is not a movie. This is an agenda.
Well, and you know what? The heads are saying that when you say I want 50% to demonstrate like pansexual, transgender.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like at that point, it's like, come on, man. Like,
you're showing your hand.
You're showing your hand, and it's like you dare people to say, I dare you say something. Right. I dare you be upset. I'll take your livelihood. Or it's just like, look, we can agree to disagree. Do I think it's right to chastise someone based off the lifestyle they choose? No. I think that's a wrong thing to do. I think that's evil. And, you know, working other places in the world, I feel like that some places in the world are held back because of their hatred towards. Because I don't think people choose that, man. That's the lifestyle you choose. I don't remember choosing like a women. I just always loved women. You know what I mean? So to me, if that's the lifestyle you choose, that's fine. That's perfect. And again, I have a lot of homosexual friends who are transgender, cool people. And I believe they would agree that even pushing that towards children is just a line you don't cross in the sand. You know, it's like, because it's not a creative story anymore.
It's not.
It's a straight agenda, and it's literally like, hey, I want to put this in here because I want kids to understand this.
Yeah.
So you basically rob parents of that ability, the ability to teach their children, guide their children in the way they see fit. You know, because from what I understand, you're a Hebrew Israelite as well, right?
Yes.
And with that, you have a standard that you have for your home.
Absolutely.
And you know, as your kids get older, you kind of break them into certain things. Because, you know, when they get into the world, they're going to interact with people who don't agree
with. Absolutely.
Correct. And you have to still manage and move the business and do stuff. So not everybody's going to agree with you.
Right.
But if you literally don't get that opportunity to teach your kids, it's like, and then your kids may be mad, like, well, I didn't get to see the new movie. I didn't get to see this. You know, we walked out of a movie because, you know, it's just like, how do you reconcile that?
Yeah. See, it's, that's tough, man. I mean, that's tough. Like you said, it's just it really starts with, you know, you have to have a solid foundation. Whether you believe in what I believe in or whatever you believe in. I mean, whatever your belief system happens to be. Strong foundation. But then at the same time, kids are going to ask questions. That's just what they do. Kids ask 1,000 questions. 30 minutes. They ask. I know my son can at least ask 50 questions. Man, it's just, I just think about, you know, if they can push, you know, the pansexual, transgender, what else are you capable of? Like, you're opening Pandora's box at this point.
You are.
And it's just like, I'm fine with that as an adult, you know, because I can handle it. I know what I can filter in and filter out. Correct. Kids don't have that same filter at that point. You know, they're trying to figure things out, and I think you throwing ideas into their heads and throwing these notions, and it's not right. Like you said, wherever they choose to. When you get an adult, you can choose whatever you want to choose. I mean, you have to live with that. But you're an adult. I mean, just like I'm an adult, I'm responsible for every decision I make.
Right.
But right now, I'm also responsible for every decision I make for my kids. So with that, it's just that, you know, I really hate to, you know, I don't know if alienate is the right word. But I mean, I have to distance ourselves from Disney all the way around, just because I don't know what they're capable. And they make good movies. I mean,
they do. It's a creative aspect.
It does
to their movies.
It does.
And I mean, they have a whole team.
Artists
and stories and like, for example, like, and I was struggling with this idea with inclusiveness, right? Like, for example, for them having like the Princess and the Frog, having the Black Panther movie, I'm seeing a lot more Latin and Hispanic movies that are coming about. I think that is warranted because other people want to be able to identify with what they see. They want to see like superheroes that look like them. You know, see what is it like the Black Spider-Man. You know, I feel like to an extent those things do make sense.
They do. They very much so.
Yeah, and you know, and that's why I was following with that line. Like, okay, well, there's a reason they did this, and I feel like they're trying to make everybody happy. And that's where I think the problem is.
So you know what? That it almost leads into another thing, and I know this is probably a separate topic, but that's where we start combining and we did this as adults, and I think it just moved over to the kids, but we started combining, mixing the LGBTQ community with the race community. Like we always compare this to, like, you got the LGBTQ, and then you got, being black. Like, I don't know how that comparison came about. It's asinine to me that we even do that, but we do it, and we do it often. And it's just like, I don't make a choice to be black. It's what I am. I have two heterosexual parents who are black, and boom, you get me.
Right.
You don't. I don't think you get to. And I differ in you when you say, I think people choose to be, choose to be homosexual or whatever they may be. But that's a choice. But again, that's not. I don't think you're born that way. I don't think you're born heterosexual. I just think you're groomed, whether you subconsciously or consciously.
Well, I will agree to the extent that there are external factors that do make a point. I mean,
absolutely.
Like, for example, I mean, I'm attracted to brown skinned women.
Yeah.
But I've primarily been around them my entire life. So when I have buddies who like, oh, I only, I don't mess with brown skinned girls. I'm just like, I don't mess with other ones.
See, and
like,
that's how I was always attracted to red bones. My wife is one. So I've always.
Yeah, so I've always been attracted to brown skinned women. So I will agree that external factors do matter. But even if, with what we disagree, I do think that there are some comparisons that can be drawn when people use race and use, because they feel like, well, the plight of the African American community, they went through this, we went through this, fought for our rights, and I feel like they had to fight for their rights. I can understand that, but I still think there is a difference.
Fine line.
It's a fine line, because at the end of the day, like, for example, if there's like a heterosexual couple and they going too far, I tell my kids, like, y'all can't watch this. Like our kids were like, y'all can't watch this. Now it's a whole new level when it's the same sex and we're a heterosexual couple and we're not pushing that in our home. And now we're talking about things that we didn't want to talk about. And it's a kids movie.
Right.
That's all. It's the difference if it's an adult movie and it's like, okay, well, now it's on the parents because you shouldn't have them watching that. But if the children's movie feel like they have to include these things that are more of a minority, and again, I struggle with this because I feel like I get they're trying to be inclusive. I feel like you can still make stories, you can include them, but it can't be shoehorned. And I mean, I would hate to be in her shoes, because it's like you're trying to please everybody.
You can't do that. I mean,
you can't. I mean,
you know that. I mean, just being in business alone, you can't please everybody. I mean, you either like it or you don't.
Right.
I mean, you guys have made it this far,
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, we didn't get our first black character until what, 2009? That was way overdue.
Right.
But I mean, we were happy. I mean, it's not to say that, we didn't want to see some more black characters in the movies or cartoons, but I guarantee that when any black folks, protesting Disney at that point.
I agree. I mean, I think what's going on now is again, because I think sexuality is a much bigger issue.
It is.
It's a much bigger issue. And, it's good for us to be able to identify and see who looks like us and stuff like that. But once you take it to the point of, how can I say, like, you're pushing an agenda on our children. And again, this is not a debate. They clarify agenda. So we're not just using this term
that's
from a conspiracy.
Yeah.
They said this out of their own words. So when you have that ability to say you want to do that, and you're robbing that decision of parents, now we like, okay, now we got a problem. Because I don't want to have that conversation with my little children yet. I want them to understand who they are, learn, get older, develop their thought process, really develop things. And
puberty. Can you hit puberty first?
Yeah, hit puberty. Yeah, like I've seen videos where this lady had this baby, and she was like, "Oh, my baby is a homosexual," and it was like literally, I wish I had it to play for my guests, but she was like, "Oh, I call my dad or granddad, call his granddad, and he
This
got
a newborn baby, or
it was a newborn baby." And just immediately identify. I mean, I was just like, man, that's like how do you come to that? You know, how do you, like, this kid already internalized something based off what you're saying, and they may not align with it. They may get older and do that, but you can't do that. You can't sit here and push that on children. No. You know, and again, like I don't push on my kids, be straight, be this, be that. No. You know, listen, this is what you're saying between your mother and I. You see how you were made. Yeah. You know, you see the lifestyle in which we were living. I can't tell you what to do when you get older. I'll love you regardless. But this is, you know, this is what I'm attracted to. Right. And more than likely, it's what naturally you would be attracted to. But you choose a different route. Again, when you're grown, you do what you want. But when you're in my household,
it's your decision when you grow.
Yeah. But in my household, this is, you know, and I hate that parents are demonized for this, but it's like, we don't get enough of that. Right. You know, like, you remember, I don't know if you've seen where, what's his name? Denzel Washington was talking about how, like, some kids was acting up in Chicago. And he was like, the first thing I say is, like, where were their fathers? Where were their fathers? Where was, like, the family dynamic? And I talked about a lot of my videos that the nuclear family is really being destroyed. And that's what's literally destroying communities, because now it's like, it's demonized to do what's been normal for us for centuries. You know, and again, if you want to do something different, nobody is stopping you, but don't demonize the people who want to keep the status quo.
You know, that leads into another conversation. The black family was most successful when in the 60s and the 70s. That's when you had, you know, a stable household. You had a father and a mother, and you know, they probably had 12 kids apiece. I mean, similar to what me and you got. Right, you know? Right. That was the structure, and that's what built us, and that's what bred our most successful, you know, communities and businesses, and we were thriving in several different places, whether it be the North or the South. I mean, we were thriving because we had a stable household and we had stable everything
in the community.
In the community, yeah.
And I don't know if you got a chance to watch the last video, but we talked about that too. How within the community, you had everybody. You had the doctors, lawyers, everybody was around each other. Car mechanics and, I mean, business owners. I mean, and it was basically a situation where the family dynamic was thriving. And like you said, I mean, it's just now it's totally different. So is people mad that we're trying to come up with something different? Like, some people want to go back to the status quo because it's like, hey, that was working. Yeah, that was working. You know, like, and I can speak for you. I mean, when I do your kids, like, you and your wife do a great job taking care of kids, guiding them, getting them to the finish line. And I talk to my wife about that all the time. I say, I want to get my kids to the finish line. I want to guide them as they're adults, teaching them, get them out here in this world.
That's our jobs. Yeah, essentially, that's what we were put on this earth to do. Once we did our thing and we had these responsibilities come about that. It's our job to lead them to the, you know.
But that's demonized now. That's demonized because if you don't follow the agenda, that's pushed. And again, even if you agree or disagree, you may agree with something you see or disagree. Again, the agenda to me is that they want to take us out of the decision making
and put it in the hands
of like elites and what they see and what they hear. And it's just like it's getting bad. And if more parents are not having these conversations and being like, hey, let's draw the line. Let's say, hey, like stop that shit, man. Stop putting this on the TV. Stop parading this to our kids. Stop having them, you know, have you seen where they're like doing that in schools now?
Oh, I haven't.
I have to check where they were going to be talking about like critical race theory. Yeah. Like I don't like that.
I'm not a fan of it either because I also feel like this is shoehorn. It's being forced.
Yeah, so. It's this type of things where you're teaching kids things that you're making like a group of kids feel a certain type of way for decisions they didn't make personally, right? Or feeling like they're indebted to somebody or they're less than or they're inherently evil. And you have to understand why parents are being upset. Like, man, you know, because you know the good way to control a community is control the education.
Absolutely.
Control the education and what you teach them.
You at the forefront of
it. Yeah, you indoctrinate the children, and you literally, as they get older, they break away and if they don't have a strong foundation, it's easier for them to break away.
Absolutely.
And not saying it will, but if they don't have a strong foundation, you're not teaching your children, and they hearing everything on TV, they're not really, I guess, mentally how can I say
capacity.
The mental capacity or mentally strong enough to be able to defend themselves from the BS. To understand, like, man, they're literally trying to mind fuck me. They're literally telling me that this is how I have to do to survive. I have to depend on somebody to take care of me. I'm less than, or this, I mean, it's a whole slew of conversations we have. But to bring it back, is Disney right or wrong? I will say, I understand them trying to be inclusive. I can sympathize with that because, in businesses, you're trying to get all the customers.
Right.
I can sympathize with that. I like the fact that they being inclusive of a lot of ethnic groups, a lot of Asian, Black. I mean, I feel like the movies are coming out. I was like, man, I'm glad they had the Asian movie. I'm like, man, that movie was badass.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that. I don't see how that and sexuality are in the same conversation.
Right.
Because sexuality is different. I mean, it's like, again, even if it's heterosexual, it should be so, like, barely touched. I mean, like, barely, like, not even, like, just, you don't have to make a good story.
Yeah, I don't even think heterosexual is even a premise we should cross when we're talking about kids.
Exactly.
Like, it should just be off limits. We're talking about children, like, children here. Like, that's not even like you said, that conversation should be left solely up to the parents. Solely. I mean, that's what they need to be talking or instilling into their kids. Not Disney or whoever the case may be. It's not your place. And I think they just overstep their boundaries by doing that. And like you said, I'm all for inclusion too. All for it. I mean, everybody has the right to feel like they're included into something, whatever it may be. But children are just, I mean, it's just off limits, man. It's just some things.
So you immediately, like you say, so at this point, you're done with them until they make a concrete change.
Done. I mean, I had the Disney Plus. Yeah, and they're not getting any more of my money.
Okay,
not getting any more of my money.
I mean, only thing I've seen, they're still getting my money. So because I guess I haven't seen. And it could be I just may have missed it, but what movies are they really pushing at? I mean, what, like?
Well, I don't know if they even have it
yet.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
Just the conversation.
It's just, the horizon is just what scares me.
Okay.
It's just that I don't want to have to, come home and stumble upon something.
That makes sense. Sense. Because I was sitting there, I was talking to my wife, I was thinking, like, I wonder which movie is out, like that's really going over there. I feel like they have to do that because I don't see it.
And I wonder if they're going to do something similar to what, like, Netflix has done. So, Netflix has a whole section for the LGBTQ community. So are they going to separate it like that?
I mean, and that's fine. I mean, to me, if you separate it,
then you're willingly going.
Well, then, I mean, but even when they separate it, it's like kids. It's not under kids, right?
I would hope not.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, when the kids click on kids. But if it's like all inclusive in that, and because you have to think too, like this nation has a lot of predominantly religious people.
It is.
Even if you disagree with it, which is some aspects I do, I still am respectful to that because I was brought up that way. And there's a very few people you would interact with that doesn't, in some way, shape, or form, or religious centric, I should say. So if you have a majority in the country that kind of falls in line with that, you kind of got to be respectful to it. That's like the science community, right? When they come out with something new, they're always careful with what they say. You know why? Because they'll lose funding real quick. Yeah. I mean, and it's
facts.
I mean, it's the truth, and it's just one of those things where it's like, now, maybe 30 years from now, it may be a different conversation when it comes to what they have. Again, I don't think 30 years from now it should be still children. I still think that should be off limits. But I don't think, I don't know, like, if you're straight or gay, I just feel like that conversation is just, I don't know, like, because there are people who like, I don't know. I remember growing up, you could kind of tell they were, maybe I wouldn't say like homosexual or not, but there were men who were a little more feminine.
Yeah, feminine tendencies. I get that.
And then there were females who I felt were very masculine.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I feel like that's fine.
But but that ultimately doesn't determine if you're homosexual or not.
You're right about that too. It doesn't. That doesn't, because you really don't know.
I've seen it go both ways.
Yeah. So I feel like that with children, you have to be careful because they don't know how to process that.
Mm-hmm.
And as they're discovering themselves, they're going through puberty. Allow parents to have that conversation. So to answer my question, I think Disney is wrong in trying to please everybody. I think they need to just stick to what they do best. Get out the controversy. You don't have to please everybody.
You don't.
And again, that's not pleasing everybody doesn't mean you're being disrespectful to someone.
No, it doesn't.
Because that's not mean you're chastising or saying we disagree with this. It's just like a lot of people currently find offense to it, and they don't want that pushed to their children. Let's stand back from this. This it's not your battle. You don't have to do that. If you want to speak a good message, talk about cleaning up or something, or listening to your parents, or
responsibilities.
Yeah, responsibilities.
We used to learn stuff from
money management.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to talk about sexuality.
Right.
Like that's where I feel like they're biting off more than what they could chew. And honestly, I think a lot of times you got the big execs. They're like in truly liberal places that feel like that they want to tackle so many issues in a movie. They want to put out so much like, oh, this is a societal issue. It's almost like, you remember like in sports where, I don't know if you agree with this or not, you may not, but when people were protesting in sports, and I found issue with it because I felt like I don't mind protesting. It's perfectly fine.
Right.
Now I may disagree with some of the tenets on why you're protesting based off true statistics and facts once you research it. But some people want to come and watch the sport and not deal with that at all. Like I want to come and watch the sports, and it's
entertainment.
I want entertainment.
Yes.
I just some things we need to separate, like, and I feel like that if everybody feel like they have to speak on societal issues when it comes to, like, if somebody click on this video and rewatch it or whatever, they're clicking on it based off the title.
Right.
Based off, not because they come to watch something about video gaming, and now I'm talking about sexuality and children. Like, you don't do that. And I feel like that's where, and this message is to all conglomerates that keep doing that. If you want to get your pockets lined, quit preaching to us. Quit preaching to us. You don't have to. That ain't your job. And definitely, I feel like when it came to the games and stuff, that was to the adults. Now it's the kids. Now people are like up in arms, man. I mean, people like are up. You see the stuff like they're doing down in Florida?
I didn't.
Like the Governor DeSantis, man, they're not playing about this.
Oh yeah, I did see something. He what is it? The bathroom?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a slew of things that they've been passing, but
the last one I seen.
It's one of those things where it's like they're just trying to be cognizant and not be so. How can I say this? They're not trying to be like, I had a video about protecting women's sports, right? And like the issue where if someone becomes transgendered and
I dislike that very much.
I dislike it a lot. Now, that does not say we disagree with someone who's being transgender. That's not what we're saying.
No.
Do what you want. But people are seeing that these are issues that weren't talked about or really considered when that was brought into place. So we need to bring this back to the table. And that's why I feel like Florida has been doing it. Other states are really starting to think about like, hey, we don't mind being inclusive, but there's issues with this.
Right.
And I feel like that where they're showing Disney, hey, you're not going to do this. We don't care about renewing certain things. Like, we going to show you come after our children.
We coming at, yeah.
We coming at you. Like, we going to hurt your wallet. So I say that, man, like Disney, I love Disney, man. I do.
Grew up off of it.
I grew up off of it. Now I've always been taught that they do that. Back in the day they used to push the Prince Charming message and all that. So, and that was wrong. But I was still able, and again, I at least had the wisdom from my parents to understand that this is a hypersensitive reality of relationships. Mm-hmm. Relationships are not Disney fairy tales.
Right. They're fairy tales.
Fairy tales. Yeah. You know, marriage is hard work, counseling. You know, you get your days like, I don't even want to look at you. Right. I don't even want to talk to you.
Right. That's work.
Yeah, it's work, but it's worth it.
It's well worth it.
You know, so, you know, should they tackle all that in kids' movies? No. I mean, yeah, you know, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not expecting you to. That's the parents' job. You know, if y'all start going in there, diving so deep, and it's just like, now I gotta talk to my kids about marriage. You know, they don't even
see. That's again. That's why I said earlier. They're opening up Pandora's box. So now you're gonna be traveling down so many different roads. They don't know where they're gonna go. I mean, it's just everywhere. So kids' minds are gonna be everywhere. And it's just like you said, we have to tackle these so early than what we anticipated. It's just that, I mean, it's not your place, and it's so uncomfortable. I mean, it's uncomfortable to me, and you know, I'm not new to this game. I mean, my oldest is 20, and so it's just, man, I just don't like the direction that.
Hey, hopefully they change, man. Hopefully with the protesting, people talking about it, you know, with this channel, you know, if you guys enjoying it, hit a like. Rewatch, comment, but the main point is that we having this discussion because there are parents who are upset. This is not a bashing channel. We're not bashing homosexuality or anything as such, transgender, none of that. You know, you're welcome to do what you like. Just don't push it on the children.
Right.
They're not at the age to process who and what they are, how to understand things. And once a company take that into their own hands, now we have a problem. So if Disney, you keep it up, hey, your wallet's gonna hurt. Man, you got anything you want to close with, man?
Man, I think you summed it all up right there. I mean,
yeah. Well, look,
money speaks.
Yeah, money speaks. Yeah. So keep it up if you want to. You're gonna be damn mad when you ain't, when you losing a bunch of subscribers.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And, to me, Disney, that ain't the hill you want to die on, man. That's not the battle you want to. I wouldn't even fight that. I'll be like, oh, okay. And guess what? You don't even have to issue a statement. Just stop doing it. Yeah. Just stop doing it, and just talking in meetings and be like, hey, you know what? Maybe this ain't what we need to do.
And the thing is, funny you say that because had that whoever the lady was that came out, had she never made a statement, we'd have never known about it.
Right.
Never.
Right.
And we probably would have been more outraged at the fact if they would have just snuck it in there. But had she never said a thing, we'd have never known anything about it.
Right. Yeah.
So think about that.
Yeah. Glad you opened your mouth, I guess. So maybe that was a marketing thing for them to kind of test the waters. Well, you tested, you tried it. Shit ain't working.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, team, thank you guys for watching the True Layout Army podcast. Alan, just a little bit about I know you guys have a few businesses things, I'll put in the description. Yes. They can follow.
Yeah. First, www.lactation.com, LATTION.biz. It's actually the only African-American breastfeeding company in the world.
Oh, wow.
In the world. So,
okay.
Yeah, definitely support that. If you know any new moms, looking to nurse, my wife, she's very, very helpful. And she's bevy. She holds a bevy of information that she can share with whoever. And then my wife, like she has a burlesque group company, RUDE, Rude Burlesque. You can check her out on Instagram. And we're both of those pages on Instagram, also Facebook, and just check us out. Support.
Cool. Hey, support them, man. Cool. All right, man. You guys, see you till next time.